Some people right now are going, that man knows what he's talking about. That's what's so funny about these arguments. And some people are going, that man doesn't have the slightest clue what he's talking about. That's what's so awesome about these debates, man. Is that, and I guess I get the feedback as people are listening. And I'm telling you, I get just as many, that man's a genius, as that guy doesn't know what he's talking about either. It doesn't matter. It just depends on.
Well, I understand a lot of people want him to succeed, and
I get the same thing.
The one thing you get when you're in a position like mine, and you criticize somebody, is you automatically get, I get to, if I criticize somebody on the Seahawks, I'm a 49ers fan. If I criticize a Bear, like I just, torch the Bears, so I'm a Packers fan, and you know how it goes, and I have no vested interest in seeing Johnny Manziel succeed or fail. I'm just giving you my opinion, and I've been covering this league for over 20 years. He's not ready to play the position, and it's not a shock to me because I've heard all of this behind the scenes. I've said on your show numerous times, the original plan, and I've never wavered from this, Jerry, as you know, the original plan for this franchise was for Johnny Manziel to start in week 1 of this season. I don't care if anybody believes that or not. That was the original plan. And he didn't give that opportunity. It was his fault because he didn't do what he needed to do in the off season. And that's the truth. Whether people want to believe it or not, that's completely up to you. But that's the harsh truth of the matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I go back to, these are all things, regardless of how this thing ends up this year, next year, whatever, 10 years from now, whatever. These were all the things that when we were doing the draft discussions, like when we said reasons why you don't take this kid. These were all things that we mentioned, whether it was the Browns, the Cowboys, the Jaguars, whatever team it was that was going to take the plunge because you knew somebody was going to do it. These were all the things that came with it before you even started looking at whatever happens on the field, man. And some of that is, and I've said this all along because of what you just said. Everybody knows that was true. When you look at the ways that the drafting, and this is not a criticism of Manziel, this is on the organization. When you look at the ways that the drafting affected the Browns moving forward, obviously it affects you physically in the draft as far as the picks you use and the decisions you make, but it not only affected the draft, but the specter of it, as we have talked about on and on and on all season long, it loomed over the summer, training camp, the beginning of the season, every incomplete pass, everything, it loomed over, and all of those things, played a part in the whole season, playing down to where it does, but it also created what we're at now, where this unrealistic, ridiculously stupid set of expectations was placed out there by the world, and then now, instead of coming off as just a rookie who needs a lot of work, he comes off as a gigantic failure to a lot of people. All of those, all byproducts of everything that has come from this. I mean, and that was the byproduct of Johnny Manziel, the NFL player, whether it was for the Browns, for anybody else.
Yeah, and, I point to the fact that you're not going to hear me say he's a 6th-round pick or outrageous things like that. There's reasons to be fair on both sides, and just because you have one bad game doesn't mean you're never going to be an NFL quarterback. The hope from the Browns standpoint has to be that, as I said, it's got to be a wake-up call, and it's got to be a wake-up call to the kid, and he has to turn into a professional. He has to mature, and that's been a concern from day one. And as I said, it doesn't matter how many people say it to you. Think about yourself when you were young. There's a difference from being 20 years old and 50 years old, and generally you're a lot smarter when you're 50. It's just a natural evolution through experience and things like that. And Johnny Manziel's hardly the first, player to come in the NFL who wasn't the most mature kid in the world, and it doesn't mean he can't turn into that, but it's got to start, and it's got to start quickly.
Right, and the Browns have to see evidence of that because, as I said, they have a couple of weeks. I'm not saying that they're going to have to make the be-all, end-all decision, but they need to see some reason to hold on to some kind of a plan here for the future, because otherwise they're going to have decisions to make. And I hate doing this whole carousel thing again and again and again, and that's why I say Brian Hoyer, for as many people that have written his ticket out of town, I'm just saying he appreciates what Mike Pettin did for him this season. That ship may not have completely sailed as a fail-safe for the Browns next season either, but this is their thought process. And what's amazing is that, I keep saying it, they're going to go into next season, whether the names are Hoyer, Manziel, whether the names are XYZ veteran and other guy, they're going to go into a similar situation next year that they came into this season, man, as far as with decisions to make, because but Manziel's got to show you something. He doesn't have to win, doesn't have to play great or all of that. He has to prepare. He has to show you that you go, okay, we're going to continue developing. We're going to continue going. Because if he gives you 2 more performances like what you saw and not hope, you don't see the extra work, you have to start having those conversations. Don't you have to start having that conversation in the off season? I mean,
it's pretty clear. They made their decision back in May. You're not going to give up on a first-round pick in 1 year, even if you have 3 failures in a row. You're still not going to give up on it, and you're going to hope it's what it is. And that's why I think they kind of sped up the process and said, okay, I have enough respect for Mike Pettin and Kyle Shanahan to believe that they've been preaching these things since they had Johnny Manziel from day one. So they pretty much talked to him ad nauseum. The organization has been forthright and talking about some of the off the field stuff. They kind of ignored it early, but they've admitted that they've talked to him. They sat him down. They've tried to make him understand about some of that stuff. So this has all been drilled into his head. But as I said, my theory with that is you're talking about a kid who had heard it all before, and Texas A&M, and like all kids, they think they know everything. And they said, I didn't listen to them, and everything worked out fine. So that was my theory, is that was his mentality here, and said, I'll get out there when it's my time, and I'm going to light the league up, or whatever his quote was. He said it was humbling, so give him credit for that, and hopefully it humbled him.
I think it'll be interesting to see, because as you said, I agree absolutely that no matter whether I like the pick or not, to give up on a first-round pick that quickly is something that organizations do not do. But what you said there, the other side of that is when you hit the offseason, I do think it'll be interesting to see how Manziel, as we said, he hurt himself in a lot of ways with a lot of things off the field from the very beginning of everything. I'm going to be interested to see how he handles this offseason. Obviously, whatever he does, study-wise, we don't know. We only hear about. But with all of the other publicity stuff, because that's where the Browns, when I talk about their thought process, as they're sitting here going, okay, we're going to build some things around this kid. We're going to, hey, did you hear what Johnny did? You know what? Again, really? That kind of stuff. How he handles this offseason is every bit as important as how he handles the final 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. In fact, that's this is just what it is at this point. It is. He's going to struggle. I mean, don't expect anything else. I think the Browns understand that and expect that. It becomes more of as I said, I think this is their way of saying, all right, we got to teach him. And, the mentality after the Indianapolis loss is, okay, we're not going to make the playoffs, so this is the time to do it. And, it's somebody who needed to be shocked in the reality. It was going to have to happen at some point. And that is, I think, how they're framing it is they want, him to understand how difficult it's going to be, and hopefully that fuels a better, sense of being a professional in the off season. I think that's
Absolutely.
the entire plan. I think that's what it's based on. I think they understand he's going to struggle these final 2 games, and they don't care. They want him to have that wake up call.
Yeah, he's got to sit out there. That's why I said when people say, well, do you pull him? Last week, somebody was asking me, oh, man, do you put Hoyer back in? I'm like, no. I'm like, this is going to sound like it's just because I don't like him, but he has to suffer through every second of this. He literally has to feel this and go, damn, how much of that was my fault? A lot of it. And if he doesn't, then he'll never wake up. But like that's when I said Sunday night, he better have been looking in the mirror at himself going, wow. Okay, now I know what this guy, that coach was telling me about, man, and if not, then it doesn't matter. Bill Belichick, Mike Pettin, nobody will wake him up. If stuff like this, if getting smacked around that bad doesn't wake you up, if having the entire world quickly turn on a dime doesn't wake you up, then you're not going to wake up, and then he'll just fade out, and it'll just be another NFL bust. That's how it goes. And the NFL doesn't wait for anybody. They're not going to wait for Johnny Manziel. They don't wait for anybody. You're either going to catch up or they're going to move on without you. And we'll see. This offseason will be important, but not just Browns and Carolina for the Panthers playoff chase here, but a lot of big games with teams that have a lot of things to win and lose here, man. All of these. I talked yesterday with Dr. Football about these playoff races and divisions, so many of them, 1 or 2 teams right there within a game. Got some more big games this weekend for teams. You get the Cowboys and the Colts, Seattle and Arizona, Denver and Seattle, Kansas City and Pittsburgh, big for both teams there. All of these teams, big games here in this second to last week of the season.
Yeah, and a lot of teams, we saw a number of clinchings, especially in the AFC division-wise, Patriots,
Yeah.
Colts, Broncos, the teams you expected. And you'll see more this week as things start to clear up. You mentioned that Pittsburgh, Kansas City game, that's so important. Obviously, the North remains very, very jumbled, but the Steelers can clinch a playoff spot with a win. The Ravens need some help, obviously. Cincinnati clinches with a win, a playoff spot at least. And things will start to clear up even more. For Arizona in that Seattle game, it's going to, you're talking about the team with the best record in football, the Arizona Cardinals. And,
Yeah.
I just feel so bad for that club because they're down to their 3rd quarterback. You can argue they're 4th because they kind of jumped Ryan Lindley over Logan Thomas. And the fact that they have the Seattle Seahawks this week, who are a game behind them. So, it's almost like the reigning champs are gearing up when it's time to gear up, and they could still get home field in the NFC. And if that happens, I think we all know who's going to the Super Bowl on the NFC side.
Yeah, that's a big one here coming up. Going to be very fun to see that one, man. But yeah, the next 2 weeks, it's always exciting. As you said, NFL built for this stuff, but a lot of these here, you look down. And that in the AFC, so many of those games big. We talked about you got the 3 divisions that are locked up, and then you've got everybody else all there. 1, 2, 3 9-win teams, 3 8-win teams, 2 7-win teams, all there with 2 games to play. Going to be a lot of fun, man, setting up that.
Yeah, and obviously the Patriots and Broncos are fighting for that first seed.
The first seed, absolutely.
And the Patriots have that inside track because they have the tiebreaker because they beat the Broncos. And you think about the AFC Championship game, Patriots Broncos. Last year it's in Denver, obviously, and the Broncos were able to get the win. If it's going to be the similar thing this year, the Patriots obviously want to have home field, and that could be the difference.
For sure. John McMullen from the Sports Network. We're going to have some fun watching how it shakes down. And then next week, we'll be looking down the barrel of a final set of games here to determine who stays, who goes home, and sets up my favorite weekend of the sports world, wild card weekend. I love it when you've got all them games and they all matter and it's playoffs. Anyways, that's a couple of weeks from now, and we'll have Johnny Manziel part deuce here. We'll see what he does. Oh man, I didn't mean the deuce part literally, but hey, that may be part of